Some marketers I've spoken to think fingerprinting is going to be the savior of web tracking. That is so untrue. Let me explain why. So Littledata never uses fingerprinting. We rely on first-party data from your Shopify store to identify the customers in the ad platforms. What fingerprinting is doing is undermining the consent choices I've made as a user if I say I don't want to be tracked. So some of our competitors use fingerprinting to improve the number of people they can attribute to ads, but this is not a sustainable or legal way to enhance the attribution. It's not sustainable because the browsers are going to close this loophole at some point in the near future. Apple and Google are well aware that fingerprinting is basically a workaround for the privacy protections they have for users. And it's not legal because you're not giving me as a consumer in Europe or the UK the right to opt out of being tracked. You're tracking me even if I don't consent to cookies. I don't consent to you fingerprinting me either. So we're never going to use fingerprinting, and I would recommend you look closely at tools that are using that technology. 2 years ago, Shopify released the first version of its WebPixels API to track key customer events and the associated events manager within Shopify to manage them. But there's a number of problems with tracking customers that WebPixels can't fix. So these range from, firstly, a number of customers opt out of being tracked. Now at Littledata, we respect consent and their cookie choices that the customers made, and so does WebPixels. But the problem is, with that alone and without server-side tracking, you're missing a lot of the customer interactions. And that's if the WebPixels have even fired correctly, because in our tests, we find that in some cases, even when the customer has consented, the WebPixel is still not triggering. The second problem is that an increasing number of users are using ad blockers or similar, which blocks any of the tracking scripts being loaded. And WebPixels is not solving that problem. It can trigger the call that's supposed to load the tracking script, but it's not actually loading the tracking script or changing the way that happens. So again, server-side tracking is the only sensible solution to this. And thirdly, the new thank you page on the Shopify checkout is disrupting a lot of tracking, and that includes WebPixels. Yes, there is a WebPixel that you can hook into on the thank you page, which should make it reliable to get some of the common data about the customer and purchase and products the customer's purchased. But the bigger problem is that a lot of customers are not waiting for the thank you page to load. They're so familiar with the online shopping experience, they're using accelerated checkout like ShopPay to speed through the checkout, that even if that WebPixel is on your thank you page, it still won't get triggered. So I think while we do use WebPixel a little data, and there are some cases where it helps augment the tracking we're doing server-side, we wouldn't rely on it as the only way to track reliable data in 2025.